BlueTeam. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. This hopefully is going to be kind of a fast talk, maybe about 20 minutes or 30 minutes or so. Looking for a lot of interaction from you guys. How many people in here are actually pen testers? All right, so we got 2, 3, 4 maybe pen testers in here. Most of you guys are, I'm assuming, security or IT folk. So that's good. I want interaction from you guys, especially from the security, the IT people, because that's the side of the house that I've seen often, and I'm also seeing the pen testing side of the house. But just so you guys know who I am, I'm a security engineer and I work for Diebold down in North Canton. So I do pen tests both internally for Diebold. I just recently got back from Miami and I absolutely hate coming back to Cleveland. That sucked. I came back on Saturday right during the snowstorm, so that was the worst thing ever. My coat was in my bag. They couldn't even get to my bag on the bottom of the plane because the thing was getting stuck in the snow. But I also do pen tests for our customers as well, so I get to see a bunch of different people, a bunch of different networks, stuff like that. The other thing too is I'm one of the lead incident handlers for the Diebold incident response team. So whenever we have pen tests conducted against us, I'm the one that gets engaged. Whenever we find malware, I'm usually the first point of contact on that. I've contributed stuff to Social Engineering Toolkit. Dave Kennedy is my boss, so that's probably why I get to do that. I hit people with sticks. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask me. And you can follow me, WinFig98. I don't post much on Twitter. I mostly lurk, but occasionally I do post something interesting, something fun. So just so everyone is on the same page, I know there's always different interpretations of things, but for the most part, Blue Team, Red Team is a pretty simple concept. Blue Team, obviously that's the security team, the CERT team at your place of employment. And the Red Team is the pen testers. Those are the people that you typically hire to come in, test your security controls out. What I found out, because I was a Blue Team guy for a very long time, and then I recently became Red Team, what I found out was we missed a whole bunch of opportunities being on the Blue Team that we could have had when we had pen tests going on at Diebold. So the big thing is why we do a pen test. The pen tests are really done to simulate a breach. We want the business to feel the pain of being hacked without actually having a real compromise happen. We don't want our name to be published out on the website, out on the internet, all of our email addresses up on Pastebin, stuff like that. And we want to test the security controls. A lot of these things are required by various compliance and regulation bodies. PCI requires you to have a pen test, SOX, pen test, everything. Everyone wants to try to sell you a pen test. Well, that's great for the pen testers, but for the Blue Team guys, it's always, oh God, not another pen test. They're always like, okay, great. What can't we do this time? Who do we have to let attack our network and show us up and make us look like fools? So during a pen test, this is typically what the Blue Team thinks they're doing. They think they're the vigilant guy sitting there, ready, waiting. You're going to come break into my network, and I'm going to stop you right there. They think everyone's, I'm the badass here. The Red Team guys, on the other hand, the pen testers, this is actually what they're doing. They're actually cloning you the entire time. They're sitting there, and I've listened to these guys because not only have I been one of these guys, but I've also listened into their conversations. They're sitting there laughing about the security controls we have in place. They're saying, oh, look at that, look how easy I got in with MSO 8067. They didn't patch that system. Lo and behold, they don't realize that you're sitting there working on 15,000 systems, and there was just this one little system that you forgot about that they managed to get into. They're also sitting there just being like, yay, we got around, we got domain admin, woohoo, we're good, we're awesome, woohoo. Unfortunately, what the Blue Team is really doing during this entire time is they're typically just watching what goes on. They know that the pen testers are there. They know either they're on site or they're on the internet. They know the IP addresses that they're attacking from. And all they're really doing is just kind of watching you most of the time. Now I know there are the exceptions where you get that ever vigilant Windows administrator who watches his domains like a hawk and, oh my God, you put someone in domain admin, I'm immediately killing that account. But for the most part, most of them just turn the other cheek and just kind of let it go. So one of the things is, though, is that, was incident response really ever tested during the pen test? That's on the statement of works that I've seen. We want to test incident response, but at the same time, their management has told them, don't do anything. Don't be proactive about the threat that's coming into the network. So containment never really happens. All they get to do is they've done their preparation, they've done their identification. So since containment never happens, the whole incident response model falls apart. Eradication never happens. You never actually try to get that pen tester off your network anymore. You don't go try to disable their port. You don't go try to find them in the building. You don't block them on your firewalls. So you never get a chance to do recovery either. You never get a chance to actually experience the pain of having to recover from that system until it's all said and done, and hopefully the pen tester removed all his tools off your system. That's what you're hoping for. So since that, you never get to do the proper reporting that you should do as an incident. So you never really get to test what your incident response program will work like. We had a recent pen test at Diebold, and this was a full-out phishing attack done by a pretty good security group. And the CSO didn't tell us. They didn't tell us at all what was happening. God love my CSO.
So wait, you didn't see Dave snickering going?
The greatest part about this was the CSO was actually out of country with the security group that was pen testing us. Plotting and planning against us. So they leveraged an email that we had sent out and a website that we had published that we thought was, no one would ever look at this website, that was our main VPN page. And they looked at this website and they were like, we're going to copy it word for word, send it out, we're going to change some things around, and we're going to have a full-on phishing attack against 1,000 of your employees. So roughly 10% of our population received this phishing attack that looked extremely legitimate, that looked like it came from the CSO because he was sitting there laughing as he was helping craft it. Sent to our users. Included in it was a website that they went to that utilized our CSO's tool that he likes to publish and talk about, SET, to put malicious software on their computers, to have backdoors. There was also credential harvesting in that. So that came into our inbox as we were sitting at lunch at Pizza Hut, scarfing down free pizza, or actually $3 pizza because we got discounts. And we had no idea that this was a pen test. We just saw this email come in. We saw people immediately sending emails saying, I typed in my password, but I'm not getting anywhere. What's wrong with this? Or I downloaded the application and nothing's working. So we got into full incident response mode, and we went through, we did everything, and we did all the steps. We did our identification. We saw where it was coming from. We identified what users it went out to through our Exchange servers. We got the actual malware, reverse engineered it to find out that it was a Metasploit malware. The shellcode exec is what it was. We found out what IP addresses it was communicating to. We found out all this information. So we're like, okay, well, we've identified, hopefully we identified the hell out of this thing. Then we went into containment. We immediately started going to the people that had clicked on the email, that had the email. We eradicated the emails from the inbox of every single user within Diebold. We went through and found all the people that were infected and pushed out group policies on the hashes of the file so that no one could execute the file. We put it into our AV, so that way we had an AV signature for it. We did all this other stuff too, and we eventually found all the ports that it was communicating out on, so we used our SIM to monitor all those ports on all those IP addresses. And we even blacklisted all the DNS servers that we found associated with, or all the DNS entries that we found associated with it. And we even blocked all the IP subnets that we saw it communicating out to, because we noticed that this particular person had multiple IP addresses on the subnet, so we blocked that. And then we found another set that they owned, we blocked that as well. Going through, after we did all this and after we recovered from all this, we went through and did we wrote this up and we submitted it to our CSO, and he kind of chuckled and laughed and said, good job, guys. I did that. And we were like, you son of... But this was unique because the security company said that they'd never had someone do that for them. They typically, the CSO knows about it, some managers know about it, the executives know about it, they just let it go. Let's see what happens, let's see who clicks on it. Well, we didn't want to do that. We didn't do that because we didn't realize it was an actual pen test. We thought it was a legitimate threat. So we went through and we followed our incident response program to the T, and ended up, everyone found out that within 3 hours of finding this email initially, we had it completely eradicated and off our network, and we were in recovery and follow-up phase. But this type of empowerment typically doesn't happen in pen tests. This is the type of the blue team people are typically told to sit on their hands. Why can't we tell the blue team people to go at it, to respond to follow your incident response programs to the T? I've been on pen tests where I've went to companies and I've been sitting in their conference room hacking away at something, tripped some IDS alerts, and what did the security guy do? Come over. He came over to me and said, "Hey, I saw you. Well, what did you do about it?" "Oh, no, I just saw you." "Okay, well, great. I mean, so what happens if I'm a legitimate attacker hacking you guys, or not legitimate, I'm sorry, I am a legitimate hacker, but an illegitimate person trying to attack you guys? What are you going to do? Say, hey, guy in China, I saw you. What are you doing over there?"
Okay,
Yeah.
but look at the flip side. Pen tests are not cheap.
No, they're not
And
cheap.
so what we do is, people will say, I saw this, I could have done blah, right? But if I shut them down at the get-go because my IDS identified it, and I block their IPs, to a large extent, I'm wasting my money.
Right, you're wasting $25,000, $30,000 on a pen test depending on who you're going for, depending on the price level and all that.
So I'm going to
Absolutely.
argue there's an in-between between I'm doing nothing and
Right.
I'm shutting them down at the front
And-
door.
In regards to that, I mean, absolutely, you want to let the pen tester, perform their assessment, but at the same time, you want to let the blue team really shine at what they do. You want to see your blue team act on all, with all cylinders firing. So, look at it in the statement of work, have a 2 to 3 day window where you allow the pen testers to go full bore, try to see what you can get, and you don't tell your security team, you don't tell your CERT team about it, and have them act on fire on full cylinders. Let them try to see if they can actually block it and everything else like that. Because the thing about the pen testers is they have a rock star mentality. They're always noisy. You're always going to find them. As long as you know where you're looking, you're always going to find them. They're always focused on domain admin. Well, okay, I put the caveat, most of them are. But at the end of the day, so many of them are just delivering to you a nice, pretty Nessus report. They've mocked up the Nessus report, threw some different language in there, and that's what they're delivering to you. So, most of them are. So you get the good ones that, they're adding a lot more content to it, adding a lot more value to it. But those are the ones that you want to have test your incident response program though.
So the other thing is, and you said it, they've got 2 or 3 days or a week, they have to be noisy.
Mhm.
The bad guys have as long as they want.
Right. But even still, there's things that the bad guys are doing that allow them to be identified on the network. Like one of the things that people don't watch that they really should be watching is DNS queries. What type of DNS queries going on the network? We had a pen tester in Devil, they came in, I noticed them within a day that what they were doing. I started looking at the DNS queries coming from the IP address, I saw some weird activity, and I was able to tell you exactly who was in my building. I knew the exact pen tester's name, what group he worked with and everything like that based on his DNS queries. Because I saw that he was going out to his personal website to try things out, he was going out to exploit DB, downloading latest updates and all that stuff, latest vulnerabilities. So there are things that you can watch, and actual attackers do that stuff too. They're going out there to their compromised server to download their latest rootkit package, to bring it in and to install it on the server. They're not going, they're being noisy too, and that's where you have to take that effort to look. But at the same time though, if you don't challenge the pen tester, then the pen tester will continue to be really noisy. The pen tester will just be like, well, no one cares that I got domain admin, so whatever, I don't care, I'm just going to scan the whole network with Nessus. So if you challenge the pen tester then has to become quieter. The pen tester has to really be on their game to get into the network. So if you can work that into these statement of works that they're giving to you, that you have this time where, okay, we're going to really play a true red team, blue team exercise here. And then after that, okay, then we're going to let you go ahead and do your assessment and figure out what's going on. Really get value out of that, the real penetration part of that test, and then let them continue to do their assessment. So that's how I see it, is that people really need to kind of work that type of deal into their statement of work and their RFPs. So again, like I said, this is kind of a short presentation, but I just thought of this ideal, and that I really thought that this was valuable, that we really need to have people kind of do this type of stuff. You know, we need to have the blue team really work at trying to show off their skill set, because so many times, the only time they get, if you don't hear from the blue team people, that means they're doing a good job, and that means your network's safe. But if you get to hear from a blue team person during an exercise like this is where they can, you know, spout off as much as they want. Like, look, I saved the network. And you're not going to be upset with them for talking too much. Does anyone else have any questions about this from like a pen tester's perspective or from the blue team's perspective? I mean, does anyone see any like kind of value? Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to reinforce, I see great value in being able to exercise your incident response program, because they never get a chance to do that otherwise. Real world.
Yeah, every pen test I've been involved in, with the exception of these latest ones that we've conducted internally against ourselves, but externally, no one has ever implemented an incident response program, except for on physical, where everyone has been shot or called the police on or whatever. But no one's ever really implemented an incident response program. They've always just said, yes, we've monitored, we've identified, we're done.
Well, I can tell you one good thing I'm seeing, and from my employer's perspective, we're seeing projects come down that are mandating a pen test in order to test specifically our ability to detect, deter, and the rest of the response.
Right, and those are good. I mean, they're part of the NIST standard is, you know, the identification of the threat that's coming in, and that's part of the compliance part that no one, they say they test it, but they really don't test it so often that it's kind of one of those skipped processes. Does anyone else try to test their incident response program with any type of activity? Or do you just have a cert there that kind of just, you know, we have a cert on paper, we're good? Yeah.
No, that was a response, yes, we do.
Okay. Larry?
Yeah, same. I mean, when we have pen testers, we see them knocking on our outside network, we shut them. Done. But then they'll usually hit us at night, try to do the same thing on a different IP, but same thing.
What level do you take that to, though? I mean, how far do you go? Do you just say, okay, they're attacking me from an IP address, I stop it. I've shunned that IP address.
Pretty much, yeah.
Do you guys take it any step further?
We're not that mature though.
Okay. I'm just curious. I don't know what I do
Yeah, but
when
we
I
don't just say, we know that we're getting pen test. You know, we do an NS lookup, reverse, we see, you know, that's whoever, and we know they're a pen testing firm, and we shut them down. Yeah, it doesn't matter if they're a pen testing firm or an
Right.
actual attack, we'll still shut them.
Right, because how I'm looking at pen testers are, they're going to be more typical of the APT threat, you know, the advanced persistent threat. They're going to try to keep continually breaking into your system. You shut them down one place, they're going to move over to the next, and then to the next, and then they're going to keep coming at you. So that's the type of threat that you really need to use to challenge your CERT team with. So the typical hacker from China who just sits there, scans your network, just trying to see what's going on, you know, that's what we do with them too. We shut them down, and we just shut them at our firewalls, and we just are like, okay, let's see if you come back again. And they typically don't. Once they're shunned, they're just done. Yeah?
Because it depends on what you're trying to get out of it. And when we do our pen tests, we're not trying to check incident response, we're trying to learn something about our network that we didn't know. And we will, you know, if we catch something, we'll let them know, they'll confirm it, we just let it go. Because we're paying big dollar for this stuff, and if we make them stop and have to go at us a different angle, well, we'll probably catch that too, and also we're not really getting the value out of the test. I mean, we'll typically whitelist all their addresses on
Right.
all of our protections, so they get straight to the applications, just so we can learn more about issues that we may have that we didn't know. Because it's not a test of the firewall, it's not a test of the IDS, It's a test of if everything else fails, will the applications be able to handle it?
So what's different? So I'm also looking at this as a difference in type of what you call a test versus what I call a test. And then there's the assessment part of it too. And the assessment is, that's where you're going through and checking out all that stuff. You're running your NESA scans, you're running your Nexpo scans, you're running your qual scans, you're trying to identify that stuff. What's any different from them? It sounds like that's what you let them do, to me. You're letting them just essentially run their automated tools, go through your network, and just try to identify the vulnerabilities that exist. Maybe do some false positive reduction.
And it's from the outside, it's to see if anything has been changed in the configuration that we don't know about, to see if we've got any weaknesses in the applications. Just because we have everything set up and most things are whitelisted doesn't mean we've caught everything. On the inside, and I'll tell you a couple of ways we've picked them up. And one of the things that's concerned me a couple of times is you've said that when they were on the inside, they were able to get out, they were able to download different tools and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that tells me you may not have a really restrictive outbound policy, and that might be your environment, I don't know. We have a tremendously restrictive one. One place we always pick up the internal pen testers is on NTP, because we have nothing inside that goes to the internet for time except for master time servers.
And that's what I pick them up on too. I can typically tell, they're in the network because I see something going out to like time.apple.com. I see those type of DNS requests going out. And we do have a restrictive policy, but they were able to compromise accounts and compromise things that allowed them access to like proxy servers and stuff like that. So they couldn't just go out through 80 and 443. And even though we saw those DNS requests, if they were making those requests to like exploitdb.com or to twitter.com, doesn't mean that they were actually able to get out through those. They were just trying to make that request. Yeah.
I think there's maybe value to both kinds of tests. So, I'm mostly in the development world, and so I think about unit tests and integration testing and end tests. And, a full test suite isn't really complete without all of those things at different levels. They have different objectives of what you're testing of each kind of thing. So maybe there's a place for, and a value for, one where you sit on your hands and let people just tell you everything that they can find and run willy-nilly everywhere. And then there's also value for that sort of end-to-end live fire test of what do your guys do in a crisis when you're under attack.
Yeah, and one of the things is having this type of, trying to use a test like this, a pen test, to test a relatively immature security program is not going to be, they're going to walk all over it. A penetration test, they should be able to, walk all over it, be able to get in. But against a more mature security program, that's where this type of, where you actually let your incident response team go at it and try to see if they can actually remediate the threat that's coming in. That's definitely where I see more value for this type of test.
So you said you were out eating pizza. Was that like at lunch?
Yeah, it was at
That
lunch.
happened? So how do you think your response would be if it was 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning?
5 a.m. on a
or
Sunday morning?
Or 7 a.m., 8 a.m.?
It probably would not have been nearly as good because it was a phishing attack. They were able to send the emails in, and people wouldn't have read them soon enough. They wouldn't have responded as fast as they did. So the response probably wouldn't have been as great. It definitely wouldn't have been the 3 hours that we had to remediate everything. It probably would have been closer, maybe like 6 hours at least. I'd say double at least. But we still would have went through the same motions that we did.
Were they following up on the compromised credentials and machines?
Yes, they followed up on the compromised credentials in the report.
No, were they trying to do like pivots and get to other stuff from it, or that was the extent of what they did?
I don't know, and I don't really feel, I've read the report, and I don't feel really comfortable going that level of detail in, but I will say that they did get on those machines and they did have shells, and they did do stuff on them. So I don't feel comfortable saying that they were able to pivot in and
Okay, no, I'm
compromise.
just trying to understand how aggressive was...
No, they pulled hashes off the machines and stuff like that, so, they had tokens, they were using Metasploit. They had an interpreter on there. They were able to grab delegation tokens. They could patch the hash and continue to go in. I'm not going to say if they did go further in, but they certainly had the opportunity to go further in. So it wasn't like they just got onto one random machine and said, okay, we have a shelter, we're done. They actually validated, proved that they were able to do more stuff on it. So, does anyone else have any other questions or any other comments or concerns, or I'm full of shit? I mean, that's fair to say. So,
Why hit people with sticks?
why do I hit people with sticks?
Yeah.
Because I did it when I was younger and it was fun.
Are they big sticks or little sticks?
They're big sticks.
Can you get dental vehicles with sticks?
I'm sorry?
What's the insurance like for people with sticks?
I don't tell my insurance company. They're random household accidents.
Meanwhile, you get that.
No, they're just random household accidents. That's all that happens. That's all they need to know. So.
You should incorporate that into your incident response plan.
I've hit people at work before, so they don't like it.
Yeah, why'd you click on that?
Well, no, they're usually the dumb ones that say, oh, you can hit me, whatever, and I punch them, and they're like, oh, it hurt.
It's a maintenance window.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks, everyone.